and welcome to Bingewatch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwen, and today we're looking at the new releases that will be available on Friday, the 21st of February 2025, including Stephen Knight's new period boxing drama 1,000 Blows on Disney+, and Robert De Niro in Netflix thriller 0 Day.
And we'll also be checking out documentary series Escaping Utopia on iPlayer and the return of muscle-bound crime fighter Reacher on Prime Video.
Well, it's a strong week this week. We've got two impressive new drama series, a returning favourite drama series, and a recommended documentary series as well. So we're going to start on Netflix with a new thriller which arrived on Thursday the 20th of February. It's called 0 Day. And here's a clip.
3,402 people died on 0 Day.
Absolute nationwide terror.
Computer systems completely hijacked.
A significant number of casualties.
Every phone in America displayed the same haunting message. This will happen again.
6 episodes of this one, and the headline news is, well, it stars Robert De Niro in his TV debut. Incredible. He's heading up a pretty stellar cast that includes Joan Allen, Lizzie Kaplan, Dan Stevens, also Jesse Plemons. And De Niro stars as George Mullen, who is a former US president. And the title, 0 Day, it comes from this cyberattack, which we see in episode 1, which takes down lots and lots of computer systems so that planes are falling out of the skies, trains are crashing, traffic lights are failing. So there's a lot of fatalities and, confusion and disaster, and no one knows who's caused it. But as part of the attack, this message comes up on everyone's phone saying, this will happen again. We see the former president visiting one of the sites where a lot of people have died, and the bystanders are giving the emergency services a lot of grief. And he kind of steps in and makes this very rousing speech, George Mullen, saying, we all need to stick together. We need to protect our values against this threat. This is the time, for us not to be attacking each other, but to be supporting each other. Someone films it. Of course, it goes viral. And before you know it, the current president, President Mitchell, who's played by Angela Bassett, who's done lots of great things, including playing Tina Turner in the biopic What's Love Got to Do with It? Well, she invites him for a meeting and asks him to oversee a task force or a commission that will investigate what's happened and will have sweeping powers. But the question is, well, why has she selected him? Is it a poison chalice? He's getting advice from various people, including Plemons as his rather ambitious advisor, from his family. Is it a good idea for him to take this on? That's the big question. And that's what he's weighing up by the end of episode 1. So there's a great moment in the first episode where De Niro's character is just watching the news unfolding of this crisis. And so the camera is just face on to De Niro, who's staring into it. And it's absolutely gripping because he's still got this amazing presence and charisma. And he's great in this. It's a proper grown-up thriller, political thriller. I really enjoyed episode 1, and I will be watching the rest. What did you think, Hannah?
Yeah, it is good. I mean, you've got to watch it with De Niro in there, haven't you? Although I was reading the interview in one of your TV titles where they asked him why he was interested in doing something like this. And he said, I was talking to my agent about doing something in New York so I could stay at home. And I asked him if he could find something, maybe a limited series that would film over 5 or 6 months. And he introduced me to this. So he started sending me episodes and every few weeks. And that was it. I was in. And I just think it was like brilliant. That's kind of like, yeah, that suits me. That's fine. Of course, it is absolutely great. I mean, the premise of this is kind of a little bit close to home at the moment in some ways, isn't it? I think this kind of idea of absolute power and being able to do whatever you want with it, and him coming back in and having to make really difficult decisions when he's in retirement, but absolutely required in this situation. It's different actually, which I think is nice to see, because each week we come and talk about different series or docu-series, but this feels like it offers something a little bit different and a huge talent, of course, in De Niro.
We move across to Disney Plus for our second new drama series, which arrived on Friday the 21st of February. It's called 1,000 Blows, and here's a clip.
London, the lion's den. Don't matter if you were raised here or you just got here. You learn to fight. Or this city will swallow you whole.
Yes, so this is a new Disney Plus drama, and I think they're throwing quite a bit of cash at this, I reckon. It's called 1,000 Blows, and it takes you right back to the very brutal world of bare knuckle boxing in Victorian London. Now, I'm not a huge fan of boxing anyway. When you buy it and you kind of feel like you have to watch it because everyone stayed up to watch it, I will. But it just feels incredibly brutal and barbaric to a bystander like myself. However, this takes it to another level. Bare knuckle boxing is just, as you can imagine, pretty grim. And it's exactly that in this. So if you're a bit phobic of blood, it's not for you. So this is headed up by Stephen Graham, who you will remember from Peaky Blinders. And it's kind of, I suppose it's something that he wanted to be involved in. His wife suggested that Peaky Blinders, the creator of Peaky Blinders, Stephen Knight, would want to be involved in it. And she sort of suggested that would be a good thing. He went and did it, and of course, there they were, and now they've got the script, and now it's happening, and now we're watching it. And it's you can see that there's a sort of a wealth of skill set, I suppose, with something like this, because you'd have to do a fair amount of going back and checking how things were and ensuring that everything was kind of accurate. But running through this is another storyline, so it's not just that kind of brutal bare knuckle boxing that's going on. It's also the women involved, as well, and the kind of the relationships that are going on behind everything. Because of course, this is making money, and you need to be the best at all times, and you can't falter. The cash doesn't come in, and as I say, there's kind of lots of relationships going on in the background, and it feels it's a really solid, I think, narrative throughout it. There isn't any way you think, that storyline's a bit rubbish, or that shouldn't really happen. It feels really well thought out. I don't know what you think, Ian, but I mean, for me, it's not something that I would necessarily turn to watch because of the content, but actually it's pretty captivating once you start.
Well, by coincidence, this very morning, I was watching a screener of an upcoming Netflix crime drama called Adolescence, which is co-written by and stars Stephen Graham, and he co-wrote that with Jack Thorne, the award-winning writer. Well, this has been written by Stephen Knight, who's a rather prolific writer, isn't he? Probably best known for Peaky Blinders, so you'd think, well, if anyone's a good pick to do a Victorian boxing drama, he's your man, and he does a great job of this. But he's also done Taboo. He did that very good series about the Ska Band called This Town. SAS Rogue Heroes, which I've been binging my way through recently. So yeah, he's done loads of stuff for TV and for film, and yeah, he really shows his class with this, because although it's about bare knuckle fighting, and I'm no fan of watching people getting pummeled on screen, there's a lot going on. There are lots of really interesting storylines that interconnect, and strong characters, and you care about all of them. And it kicks off, it's set in the 1880s, and these two lads arrive from Jamaica. They're Hezekiah, played by Malachi Kirby, and Alec, played by Francis Lovehall, who come to London to sort of make their fortune, and Hezekiah in particular wants to be a lion tamer, but they've got no money. It's quite a racist society, so they can't get any lodgings, and that's how they sort of fall into this world of bare-knuckle boxing. You got Danny Mays with very good facial hair, who's sort of like the MC introducing the bouts, and Stephen Graham plays this boxer who is the king of the ring, really, Sugar Goodson. Erin Doherty, who appears with Graham in Adolescence, well, she is really good in this. She plays this woman called Mary Carr, who genuinely did exist, who was the head of a gang of female pickpockets, but she has plans to do something a little bit more ambitious. So yeah, I mean, he's packed plenty into episode 1. It's fascinating. It moves quickly. The sets look great, and it's just got a terrific cast, and it's very well written. So yes, another winner from Mr. Stephen Knight. Over on Prime Video, arriving on Thursday the 20th of February, we have the return of the drama series Reacher. And here's a clip.
Mr. Reacher, we're looking into the owner of a rug import business called Bazaar Bazaar.
Let me guess. DEA thinks he's in business with bad people.
You know him?
I thought I killed him years ago.
What did he do to you?
He didn't do anything to me.
Maybe we can help each other out.
This is season 3, or series 3, as we say in the UK. 8 episodes. 3 will drop initially, and then it's weekly. Reacher, as he likes to be known, or Jack Reacher, to give him his full name, well, he's been played on the big screen by Tom Cruise, which is quite surprising because Jack Reacher is supposed to be a great big hulking guy. He's a former military police officer and a bit of a drifter, really, just wandering from town to town. In this incarnation, he's played by Alan Ritchson, who I did meet to talk to when Series 1 aired, and he is a big lad. Anyway, it's got, for those who are as old as me, it's got a bit of that sort of Incredible Hulk type vibe, in that it's about a drifter arriving in a new place, getting involved with some new characters and probably some crime, some bad guys, overcoming adversity, and then moving on. Although there is a sort of story arc across this whole season. So in this one, it kicks off, Reacher blows into town and he witnesses an attempted abduction, and of course, being a man of action, steps in and foils it. Turns out it's the son of a wealthy businessman who is the target for the abduction. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but Reacher gets involved with the boy's father, Zachary Beck, who is supposedly a carpet importer who's very rich, played by Anthony Michael Hall, who of course was a teenage star in films such as National Lampoon's Vacation with Chevy Chase, Weird Science, and The Breakfast Club. Yeah. So I didn't recognise him, but there he is. He's very good. And also, Reacher is going to come up against a formidable foe, a bearded bodyguard, okay, who is played by, he's called Paulie, and he's played by a Dutch bodybuilder called Olivier Richters, he is huge. I mean, he literally normally gets cast as a giant. So yeah, it's interesting to see Reacher being dwarfed by this absolute incredible Hulk. Anyway, so I liken Reacher a bit to just watching the beginning of Rambo First Blood over and over again, because he tends to arrive in town and he often comes up against law enforcement or baddies, and he doesn't say much, but there comes a reckoning because of his training. So yeah, I really like Reacher. He's a creation of Lee Child, the pen name of Jim Grant, and the books are massively popular. And these days, Jim co-writes them with his brother Andrew. So, yeah, I mean, if you like Reacher, the films, or if you've watched the previous series of this, you're going to enjoy it. It absolutely delivers. I think it's great. What did you think, Hannah?
There's a lot of fighting this week, isn't there, Ian? A lot of fighting. But that's the theme. Yeah, do you know what? There's a reason it's continuing, isn't it? It's so incredibly popular. And I don't know, they just, everyone that's in this kind of absolutely believes in it. I think it feels really authentic because of that. And the fighting, I think reading again one of your interviews, it's not always, quite often catch each other mistakenly in the face as well. So it's not just planned fighting, which is good because I think they put everything into it, which is why it's so effective. I mean, I don't know that it's, I particularly love it because of that. I don't kind of like that kind of physicality, but I can see why people like it so much, and this series doesn't disappoint.
We're going to finish on BBC iPlayer with a new 3-part documentary series that arrived on Sunday the 16th of February. It's called Escaping Utopia, and here's a clip.
In Gloriavale, it's protected. We are the chosen ones. We are the people of God.
We were told, this is what we're protecting you from. We've taken you out of this evil, wicked world.
Cross this bridge and you've lost your soul. And that's the psychological prison.
Yeah, so this really it certainly got the hairs on the back of my neck standing up, because it was just, it's just very, very creepy, because these kind of things exist. And this is essentially a documentary which it looks into escaping and interviewing people who've already broken free from a compound called Gloriavale. And it was set up, in fact, one of the people interviewed, his father is the guy that set it up. And their whole methodology it's based on religion, of course it is. This is not the first of its kind and won't be the last. And the idea is sort of the men are the superior sex, and the women are there to service men and to have children. And if they don't, they are going to be going against the Lord, and hell hath no fury, and they will end up there. And it's sort of, there's one interview with one of these guys who just says this is I think he was in his 30s. I'm trying to remember his name. He's interviewed, and he wants to leave. Him and his wife were both born in there. They've known nothing else. And this is what interests me about this, because I'm kind of going everywhere, because it's just it's so interesting. But these two people have never known anything else, and yet he's questioning it. And the reason, and it's kind of weird, because you think you'd be so consumed by that you wouldn't know any different. But they have 3 children, expecting their 4th, because part of this cult is, if I can call it that, is the idea that you keep having children, that is exponential in terms of growth and reproduction. So they've got 3 children, 1 on the way, and they're questioning the safety of their own children, because he says that he was abused when he was a child, and he doesn't want that to happen to his children. But he says it's not a case of just being able to up and leave, and it splits couples, because one of you will go like, I'm ready to go, and just walk away. A, it's not that easy, but B, the other person doesn't want to, because they don't want that eternal damnation from the Lord and going to hell. And so it's just the music, the way this has all been put together. There's so much. It's hard to kind of for them to pull it all into the time that they've got to do this. But it's one, as I say, one of many. It's not the first, and it certainly won't be the last. But there is footage of some of these kind of assemblies, I suppose, where they talk, where women are just there to service the men under the guise that they're, you know, very peaceful creatures and kind creatures, and they look after us. And the narrative is really quite frightening that this could happen. So you can't show, as a woman, you can't show anything. You can't show your hair. You have to wear something that covers your hair. You're told if you're showing your ankles, or I think it's your elbows, they say at one point, you are leading a man on. You mustn't do that. It's really unbelievable to think this sort of thing exists, but it absolutely does. And as I say, I think it's really been done quite well in terms of the sort of, maybe that I was thinking at one point, are they over-egging this with the music and the sort of creepy, but actually they're not, because it just feels very, very creepy. What do you think, Ian?
Yes, I'm always really interested in these documentaries about cults or strange communities. I wasn't familiar with this one called Gloriavale in a remote part of New Zealand, which was founded by this guy called Neville Cooper. But it's a depressingly familiar story in that at the head of these secretive organizations, there's usually some pervy guy who basically wants to prey on people sexually. And so it proves to be in Gloriavale, because we hear, there's lots of disturbing things that we hear, but among them are the fact that he would kind of give these sex demonstrations where he would encourage lots of couples to make love all together in one room. He'd encourage kids to get naked with their parents. It's all very creepy. And yeah, as you say, the women weren't allowed to expose any flesh because obviously men cannot control their urges. And they were cut off from the outside world. In fact, at one point in episode 1, they talk about the fact that the women used to light the fires using newspapers. But when they discovered that they were reading the newspapers, they would censor them and cut out any stories that they thought might be, you know, threatening to the community and to the sort of these poor brainwashed people's view of their lives. And interestingly, it's a son of Neville Cooper who left the community and has now dedicated himself to helping people to leave. So, yeah, as I say, depressingly familiar tale, but a very interesting one. Yeah, I found it a gripping watch. Now we've got to that time, Hannah, where we find out what the heck you've been binge watching this week.
Well, we talked about it last week. I continued to watch it this week, and that is Katherine Ryan and watching her therapy. And you're so right, Ian, when you say, like, she takes him to therapy, and it turns out everything's wrong with her and not him, actually. And this is the episode where daughter Violet bought, I mean, she's 15, right? She bought a cat and brought it home, even though mum said no. And they don't really know what to do about that.
On Netflix, I've been watching a very good period western called American Primeval, which is about this woman trying to locate her husband on the wild frontier and running the gauntlet of Mormon militia and Native American Indians and just people who are out for whatever they can get. It's a pretty unforgiving time and place. And it's slightly got the vibe of the film The Revenant starring Leonardo DiCaprio. And yeah, I would highly recommend that. It's well worth a look. I mean, it is quite violent and shocking, but it's very well done. Now, we've just got time to look ahead to next week's offerings. So, what's on the agenda, Brenda?
Well, my friend, Kate Hudson takes over a basketball team in the Netflix comedy Running Point.
And one of my favourites, Mr. Dave Gorman, well, he is back on You with a new series of his stand-up show, Modern Life is Goodish. So, we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime, listeners, keep watching.